So Shayne, thank you for joining today.
Oh, no problem.
And one thing I wanted to ask you about that I think you've got some expertise in, at least more expertise than I do, is prepping, meaning stockpiling, getting types of food. So can you elaborate a little bit more what that might entail?
Sure, no problem. So prepping basically is preparing goods, for example, foods and water, things like that, batteries, just in case there's an emergency where you might need it and may not be able to get it readily. And it started off, as you know, I'm from Hawaii, and Hawaii is isolated, basically, is the most isolated place in the world. So we're in the middle of the Pacific Ocean.
Is it really?
It is, yeah. And so everything is shipped into Hawaii. And once in a while, we have, stoppages, of the ships.
Right.
So when that happens, then, people in Hawaii don't have the goods which are normally shipped in. So ever since I was a kid, you hear on the radio, for example, this is the beginning of hurricane season, so you should stock up on things like water, batteries, and things like that, just in case there's shortages.
Right. Well, let me go back. I didn't know Hawaii was the most isolated place or island. What would you say, like in the entire world?
I think it is the most isolated large city in the world.
Interesting.
Yeah, because we're surrounded by the Pacific Ocean.
So, wow.
Yeah.
See, I would have thought, my first guess would have been Australia or like Antarctica or something like that. But no, I never thought about it being like that. Especially for, I guess, a place that has, like you said, the biggest city.
Right.
So where it's most populated.
Right.
That makes more sense. So, wow. So like you mentioned like batteries, water. What might be some other types of, obviously food, but what do you think are some other types of accessories or things we don't really think about? I would think, of course, like water and some sort of electricity, like batteries for flashlights and food. But what are some other things that might go under the radar that you think would be important to stockpile?
Okay, yeah, there's so many things. For example, things we don't usually consider, like medicines, for example.
Oh, yeah, there you go.
Yeah. So
you don't really think about it till you need it.
Exactly, especially antibiotics. So usually you need a prescription for antibiotics from the doctor, but in times when the doctors are closed and you have an infection, you need something right away.
Right.
Yeah. So things like that. There are companies that you could do like an online doctor's examination, and they'll issue you a prescription to purchase antibiotics.
Okay, I see. Yeah, so medicine's definitely something that we would need to prepare for.
Right.
Interesting. So when did you you said you got into this maybe when you were in Hawaii because of that reason.
Right.
Did that carry on throughout your life when you came to Japan as well?
It did. So remember back in 2011 when there was a big Tohoku earthquake?
Yes.
So I was actually in Tokyo during that day.
Oh, really?
My office was actually in Narita at that time.
Okay.
But I remember just walking home and seeing everyone just walking. It was like a scene from a movie, basically. And I knew at that time, there'll be rushes, people will start panic buying. So that's when I decided, okay, I better start being more serious about preparation in Japan.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So that kind of sparked you reignited your thoughts about being prepared for any kind of future events or disasters.
It did. Because I remember a few days after that disaster, you'd go to the supermarket, convenience store, the shelves would be bare.
Really?
No food,
Yeah, I wasn't here during that time, so I didn't experience that type of situation.
So you'd go to the local supermarket or convenience store and you'd see nothing on the shelves.
Wow.
And there was a 7-Eleven near my house and they were rationing water, 1 2-liter bottle per day per person.
Wow.
Yeah, and if you had a car, it was very difficult to get gasoline.
Right.
Yeah.
Goodness. Yeah, that's a terrible time. How long do you think that lasted for until things kind of got back
at
to
least normal? Where I was in Tokyo, in central Tokyo, it lasted for about 3 or 4 weeks.
Oh, that's a long time.
Until things kind of normalized. But it was kind of a long time.
So what happened during that period? Like, obviously it's a terrible disaster, but did you just have to kind of keep going through life, like go to work and try to bear through it?
Actually, I had a student. I used to teach at this school on Saturdays, and my student showed up the next day, Saturday,
No
for
way.
a lesson at 9 a.m. I was very surprised because I thought, everyone would be.
Were you still there because you couldn't go home?
I was, I couldn't go home. I thought, I might as well go to work. So
wow.
I was surprised that the student was there.
Just ready to go.
Yeah, exactly.
Wow. Well, that's a very good student, I guess, but probably not the best of times to go out to
Exactly.
learn.
Yeah.
Wow. So yeah, so basically life just went back to normal for not normal, I should say, but you had to kind of keep going. You couldn't
Yeah. From
just
what I
stop.
remember, it was a little tough at times, not being able to get certain things. For example, you know, on the way home, for example, I might just pick up a bento or a sandwich on the way home, but that wasn't possible during that time. So,
Wow.
yeah.
That's pretty amazing. So this kind of again ignited your
Mhm.
thinking that you need to start prepping. What would you say is the first thing you also started as you got back into it? What did you start really working towards to prepare with?
Okay. So I started with things like batteries, things like that, and water. So water is the most important thing I think you should, any person who prepares should, store away.
Right.
Because you can live a few weeks without food, but, only a few days without water,
Right.
clean water. Yeah.
So number one, water, batteries.
Right.
Did you also stockpile like multiples of things? Like for example, let's say you had a flashlight, but one might break. So do you have like doubles or triples of these types
I
of
would have
things?
backups, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
What about generators? Do you have like a generator, a main
That's
generator backup?
my next purchase would be a generator. I'm looking
Okay.
at a solar generator now, actually.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, that would be probably the best route to
Right.
go, right?
Yeah.
Do you have, whenever we have recent kind of earthquakes, I always want to get one of those like cheap gear powered generators, the ones with like a
Right.
flashlight,
Right.
but you can plug it in and charge it, but you can also spin it to charge
Right.
it. I don't know if that's that's
Yeah,
good to have
actually,
it all.
I mean,
It'll last maybe like 2 days and then
right.
I can't do much
Now,
with it.
generally speaking, good generators are very expensive, but I think it's worth the money because usually, you heard the term, you get what you pay for.
Very true.
So,
Yeah.
so it may not last as long as you hope it'll last. Yeah.
Right. So probably solar is definitely the way to go with that.
Well, I like solar because you don't need any fuel like gasoline to power your generator.
Right. Or hand power,
Or hand
cranking
power,
power.
yeah.
So if you lose ability to be able to do that, you're kind of out of luck.
Right.
Okay. So definitely the generator you definitely have to need.
Mhm.
And again, we have medicine. Can you think of anything else that might not be so obvious that we might want to prepare? Like what kind of foods would you
Right.
think are best to prepare?
Well-
Obviously you don't want like a fish,
Right.
because that's not going to really
Right.
help you.
Yeah, mostly non-perishable proteins because, as far as vegetables is concerned, you can grow your own vegetables. It'll take a while, but it's easier to grow vegetables than to raise a cow. So
Yeah,
that's
true.
why I'd
That's true.
recommend proteins, meats, canned meats, things like that.
Okay, so yeah, take me through the process. Actually, I was talking with a coworker about this right before we started talking.
Right.
About that you have canned meat,
Right.
but you use glass. Is that correct? Like mason jars?
Right. So that's called the pressure canning process. So
Okay.
it's basically glass jars. I fill them up with raw beef, for example, and it's called cold packing. And I have a pressure cooker that does have a canning function, and the whole process
okay.
takes about an hour and a half.
Okay, so you stick the bottle in.
Right.
The pressure cooker.
Right.
Pressure cooks in. I don't know what the correct verb would be.
So the product that comes out is similar to what you might find in a can in the store.
Oh, okay.
So when you open it up, it'll look similar.
Oh, okay. Interesting. So that's why like the canned foods can last for
Right.
months and years even, right?
And according to the FDA, if done properly and stored properly, there's no expiration date.
Oh, wow.
Right.
And so, okay, let's say you go through the process of canning the food. What about storing it? Well, I mean, can you just leave it anywhere? Does it have to be in a particular temperature?
Yeah, so it should be in a cool, dry place.
Okay.
And there's a seal on the top of on the lid of the can or the jar. And you have to make sure that lid or that seal is not, broken.
Right.
So it's a little button that pops up.
Oh, yeah,
to kind of notify you if it's broken or not. Yeah.
Right. So it's kind of like we could find it in any grocery store, right?
Yeah. When you buy jars with lids on them. Yeah.
Right.
When you open it, it pops up. It's a similar function.
Yeah, because this kind of makes more sense with my, my background with prepping comes from America, same as you, but more not the coastal, lovely Hawaii. I'm thinking of like Midwest, where there's a lot of tornadoes, there's a lot of these types of natural disasters, and a lot of the preppers got a bad rap for a long time about being a prepper because they were seen as kind of eccentric, maybe crazy, because who's going to store all of this food? And in my image is they usually always put it underground. They
Right.
have most places like in the Midwest have a basement
Right.
or a cellar, which we don't really have in Japan. So
Right.
I think that's why my image is that, because it is the temperature is usually always steady and
Right,
it's not
right.
going to be hit by sunlight or anything like that. So that's where they usually would keep it. So that's makes sense to me, but it kind of makes me start thinking about the stereotype of preppers, especially before the pandemic that we just have gone through with COVID-19. And, we saw a lot of the people that were preppers came out unscathed. They actually might have made a profit in some ways. Do you think this was a turning point for a lot of people to see preppers not as these crazy eccentric reality TV people, but now they're actually smart, they're wise to do this?
Yeah, I think it opened up a lot of eyes, made more and more people aware of what prepping is and the need for prepping. And, being in Japan, the land of natural disasters. So, yeah. I
Oh, is
mean,
that our nickname?
yeah. So I think I'm happy when I hear more and more people are aware of prepping. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, it's a little hard for me to think about prepping in Japan because there's just not a lot of space.
Right.
And that's what kind of, for me, living here turns me off from starting it and doing it. It's because I'm already at my limit with space in the place where I live. So I don't think of how can I, start preparing and adding, even just water. Bottled water would take up a lot of space.
Yeah.
So are you doing this at your own home, or are you, renting out another space for all of this?
Yeah. So I've heard the same. I call it an excuse.
Okay,
Sorry.
okay. It is an excuse.
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
guilty.
Because of course I live in Tokyo as well, and my apartment is not the biggest. So but I think I'm willing to sacrifice the comfort of having more space for my the goods that I prep, basically, because I know when I need it, it's gonna be there, and I'll be happy that I've stored it away.
That's a good point.
Yeah.
So I'm just picturing your couch is made of water bottles,
No.
and you okay.
No, it's not that bad, but
Okay.
I use a good amount of space in my my place right now for the things I stock up.
Yeah, I mean, who needs furniture?
Yeah.
A cardboard box of bottled water could easily be your, your table stand.
Right. Actually, with me and with water, I don't have too much water stored up because I'm just lucky. Across the street from my house, there's a emergency water well.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So it's like one of those manual pumps. you know.
Yeah.
There's a few along the street where I live, so I don't need to worry about water source. I just need to worry about filtration and purification of the water.
Right.
Yeah.
Interesting, which is great because you're already got the mindset.
Yeah.
And this is my thinking. Most people, if something does, let's just, God forbid, something does happen, they're going to go straight to the store. And I could see you going straight to those wells and just pumping out as much water as possible.
Right. Because what's going to happen, unfortunately, what might happen is, say a big earthquake occurs tomorrow, everyone will be rushing to the stores. You need to fight the crowds to get your food.
Right.
I won't need to do that. I'll just go home and make sure my house is in order.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then set off for the countryside.
Yeah.
All right. So just to wrap this up, what would you say are some things that people can really start doing if they are interested in preparing right now? Like you said, tomorrow there could be the next big earthquake, and we haven't even started, but let's say we've got some time.
Right.
What would you say, let's say for me, what would be the best ways to start doing this, starting easy, building up to something big?
I think the best thing for everyone is because, if you start to collect materials, it'll cost a lot of money, basically. So, but the best thing everyone could do is just study on how to do things, how to prep, what to prepare, things like that. It's free,
Yeah.
So, that's the most powerful thing you could do right now. Just learn about what is prepping, what kind of things you may need.
Even would you go so far as to start learning survival skills as well?
I wouldn't say
Not
no,
that far.
but I mean, I used to be a Boy Scout, so I know some survival skills, like how to make fires in a shelter in the wilderness. But
yeah, I mean, even that one's something good
but
to
if
know.
it gets that bad, I think we'll have a lot more things to worry about then.
Well, that's true.
Yeah.
How to tie a rope.
Exactly. Yeah.
All right. And last thing, let's say, worst case scenario, money is not going to mean much. And let's say you can't even use a debit card because there is no electricity.
Right.
What would you say is the best thing that you might want to use in the future for, purchasing, buying, selling goods, that type of thing?
Well, worst case scenario, we might have to go back to the bartering system. So if we, are practicing bartering again, then, the foods that we stored, like a can of tuna, is like money, basically.
Right.
You could trade that for something else, right?
Yeah.
Or even skills that you may have, like sewing skills, things like that. You could, trade your skill in for a can of beans or something like that. Yeah.
Oh, that's a really good point. You're right. Because those things, I'm going to be honest, I don't know how to sew.
Right.
I mean, if you gave me a button and a shirt, it would be a mess. But yeah, like if I needed warm clothing, something like that, I would definitely trade something for someone that could do that skill.
Yeah, I think skills like, sewing or carpentry, things like that, where there will probably be some need for it in the future.
Right.
Is always a good skill to have, I think.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow, very good. I learned a lot today. I really appreciate it. So hopefully everyone listening also picked up on some advice that Shayne shared, and hopefully you will start preparing. I think tonight I'm definitely going to go and buy some batteries at least. That way I'm starting. I'm slowly, baby steps. All right. Thank you very much.
That's a great idea.
That's what I'll do.
Yeah, thank you guys.
Thank you for listening to English Roundtable, made possible by Kanda Career College in Tokyo, Japan. If you enjoyed hearing natural English conversation, subscribe and like us wherever you're listening, and check us out on YouTube, Twitter, and our other SNS platforms, which will be in the description for this episode. Head over to the YouTube page to see some of the keywords we used in the conversation and other activities to test your English listening skills. Thanks again, and we'll see you in the next episode.